rest of the fleet, where all 25 vehicles will be fully integrated. If you notice at the end of the 5th year, we're recognizing the equity at the end of the term. This is an equity lease or an open-end lease, and so the equity would come back to the city. There's no mileage penalties, no wear and tear penalties. It's very similar to a finance. The only difference is from a cash flow perspective, we're only funding a portion of the vehicle, which allows us to stretch the capital further and replace vehicles more frequently. Again, we're going to be conservative with the residual value or the payoff that we put on there because we want to put you in a good equitable position. And then whenever it sells for, whatever it sells above the payoff, that equity again can be rolled into the next vehicle, or could be a check cut back to the city, however the city decides they want to handle that. Any questions on the phase-in plan?
Length of the contract.
Yeah. There's no length of the contract. It can be terminated at any time.
Okay.
So does the city hold title to these vehicles? Or?
We would hold title as the lender. They'd be registered to the city though. Enterprise Rent-A-Car would be, Enterprise Trust would be the lender.
Gotcha.
But it would be registered to the city.
If these cars have major mechanical problems and transmission goes out, I guess the manufacturer's warranty is still applicable, correct?
Absolutely.
For all these.
Yeah, and on the public works vehicles, everything is covered, including if the engine did go out on one of the non-emergency response vehicles.
So not only are we paying that routine maintenance, it actually would pay for any major repair.
Any repair.
For the non-emergency vehicles. What about for the emergency vehicles if there's a major repair?
The warranty still applies regardless for the emergency response vehicles as well. It's just not budgeted in.
Is it? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
You said that you need more data, more history before we can do the emergency vehicles on it. How much data? I mean, a year, 2 years, 3 years, or it's variable, or?
Really for the Taylor family to decide.
Okay.
We moved into emergency response vehicles because of a lot of the cities that we've been working with were asking for it, but a couple years ago.
Okay.
And so we just don't have enough response. I'm not sure how long
That's okay.
history, but that's a great question.
Is the warranty 3 years, 36,000, or how's that work on mileage?
The warranty is based on what the manufacturer offers for each make and model. So it would depend on which particular vehicle that you're talking about.
But a garden variety is 3 years, 36.
It is, and I think it's longer. I think on the Tahoes it's longer.
Chevys are usually long. I know mine is.
I can look it up.
That's okay.
I have the backup to it. I can't remember on each individual.
That's okay. Any other questions?
Yes. If we, for the first set of vehicles that get replaced, how long after that before they're replaced again?
That's a great question, actually. So for a lot of the public work vehicles, the recommendations that we made specifically, there are quite a few makes and models that are going to make sense to probably replace before 5 years. That will be evaluated annually, and staff and council will make the decision what you want to do. We're just here to provide the recommendations. But based on our initial numbers, there are a couple that, based on the buying power, will probably make sense for you to flip in somewhere between 12 to 24 months and either be able to break even or make a profit on it. So we'll bring those numbers to you for you to make the decision what you want to do for time.
Are there any Corvettes in here?
We can do that.
So how often does your team get to the city to update us on these things?
That's a great question.
How's that happen?
So the team will be meeting with staff at least twice a year. One is a fleet replacement schedule meeting, so looking at the replacements for next year, which makes and models, should we do Chevy, should we do Ford on this particular model, and then helping order early in the model year. And so one advantage to doing that is that we can order vehicles, I would recommend, between spring and summer, depending on when those order banks open. And then we take delivery of those vehicles and get them to aftermarket, and especially for police. I'm not sure if you know how long the process takes to get a police vehicle upfitted. It's very long. We can actually get that to aftermarket in the summertime and then deliver it October 1st so that they're not waiting until January or after for their vehicles. So we would just start on that probably 6 months early before that next fiscal year so we can deliver them turnkey ready to go around October. Again, I'm not promising October.
But all right, so you brought up a good point. So on the police vehicles, they have special equipment, radios, and all the other emergency equipment. So how's that get handled? You know, if we upgrade radios, I know we went through that process a few years ago.
Yep.
So how does that all get integrated together on a vehicle and pulled together? I mean,
Great question. So on this first round of police vehicles that we're doing, we're helping to source the equipment through Defender Supply. And they have the choice whenever it's cycled out if they want to take any of the equipment. There's certain equipment that has a life cycle that could be swapped over next round. And there's some that just based on cost and trying to rewire it and everything won't make sense. But they do have the choice on all of that aftermarket if they want to move it over. And vice versa. If there's any equipment on any vehicles today that needed to be swapped in, they can do that as well.
I'm assuming the same applies to Public Works,
Yes.
toolboxes, whatnot.
Exactly.
Any other questions?
I'd like to make a comment. I did some research on this. Just doing an average price of $30,000 a vehicle, you're looking at, if we were to replace it on our own, $750,000 plus to do it on our own. Then looking at this budget so far this year, we spent $52,000 on just vehicle maintenance. Now granted, $16,000 was for fire truck.
Boom.
They like
happens, man.
if you're going to have brakes work on a vehicle, fire truck is the one that you want.
But, well, the point is, over time, you're looking at spending 40 grand a year for 5 years. That's another $200,000 that we could be saving.
It's an excellent idea.
We expect for, on the non-emergency response vehicles, because we can predict and budget that maintenance, we know that we can reduce fuel by about 20%, and then maintenance is gonna go down by about 40%.
Any other questions?
One more quick thing, Mr. Mayor. To your point, Gary. Our first payment on this is roughly $90,000, give or take. And just the water budget alone, and 90,000 is getting us how many vehicles? 13. Just in the water budget alone, we budgeted 90,000 for 2 Public Works trucks that will eventually drive till the tires come off, and we'll be doing this again year after year after year.
Good point. Any other questions? Do we have a motion? To accept, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance on 6, right? 775?
7751-18.
As read.
No.
Pass it in.
Accept the enterprise contract.
Excuse me.
You're on the next one.
Greg's wanting to go home.
Number 5.
You're right. Make a motion to approve the fleet lease, say that for you, and maintenance agreement as read.
Do we have a second?
A second.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Great presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 6. Here we go, Greg. To consider and take action. To consider and take action on ordinance 775-18, an ordinance authorizing and allowing restricted prior service credit to employees for service performed for various public entities for which they have not received credit with the Texas Municipal Retirement System. Mr. Grimes.
Alicia, you want to?
We've had, especially now, we've had a new employee who worked previously in another state for cities. This covers that. This covers prior military service that TMRS doesn't give them credit for. It does not add any money to their account. It just gives them the time in service so that they don't have to, if they've only been here 10 years, but they were in the military 10 years, they can retire here. But it doesn't affect the money that's put in there. It's just the time. It just gives them that time back.
It's also a good recruitment tool.
Do we have a motion?
Mayor, we need to read the caption. Let me read the caption and the council can move on it.
Okay.
An ordinance authorizing and allowing under the act governing the Texas Municipal Retirement System restricted prior service credit to employees who are members of the system for service previously performed for various other public entities for which they have not received credited service, and establishing an effective date for the ordinance.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Item number 7, to consider and take action on alcohol permit fees policy. Mr. Grimes.
Mr. Mayor, actually,
Alicia.
the state authorizes us to collect these fees, which is half of the state fees, and for each alcohol permit that the city receives. Not every permit we can collect a fee on. Some of them we can, some of them we can't. I do have a list in the policy there that states, and that's just a suggested policy. You can only collect up to that amount, but the state already has laws in place for us to collect those, and this policy just makes give a structure to collecting those fees and who does that.
Do we have a motion?
I'll move that we adopt the alcohol permits policy as presented.
Second?
Second.
Any other questions? All in favor? Thank you. Item number 8, presentation of preliminary budget. Is that Alicia or Mr. Grimes?
That would be me. We saved the heavy lifting for Alicia. On Friday, I emailed everyone a copy of this document, which is the preliminary budget for the city. We will file the proposed budget on Friday. Actually, we'll file it on Thursday with the city secretary's office. It'll have the proposed rate and all the other statutory languages as required by the legislature. A couple of things of note in here. When you see, namely the taxes, that's what everybody's concerned about the most. Our M&O tax rate is based on a .3084, which is the exact same rate that we have today. When you see the ad in the paper, you will see a proposed rate of .3204, which is about a 4% increase. The reason why, as I've stated for a number of months now, I want to give this council the flexibility to maybe perhaps add to, enhance, or maybe hire new staff for fire or PD or whomever y'all choose to. That's going to be the most significant change that we'll see in this. We did go very low on a number of our revenue projections. I had Jake Weber reconcile it 3 times to verify that my projections were fairly accurate. I will tell you that we went low on sales tax. We budgeted about $975,000 for sales tax collections during the fiscal year. We are on pace to exceed $1 million. If the activity of the last 6 months continues, we will easily pass $1 million next year in revenues. But I did not budget for that. I go low. Our expenses are fairly high. My philosophy is go low on your revenues, go high on your expenses, and you should be okay. With all that said, we still have a number of surpluses that we can appoint some funds to if need be. I figured we got about $500,000 between all 3 funds that we can use or stick in reserves or address needs as they come up. The most glaring example of that is the fire truck. The brakes literally went out on the fire truck about a month ago, and the chief calls me up and he says, I need $30,000 to fix it. And what do? Well, you go into your reserve fund and you get $30,000 and you fix the fire truck.
Pep Boys has them for $190.
Y'all have slightly more sophisticated braking system, correct?
Yes.
By the way, Chief Lenore is out sick today with a stomach virus, and we all thank him for not coming. But long story short, this is a budget is not an accounting tool. It's a living, breathing, working document. And so that's how we have viewed budgeting for a number of years. And so y'all have had this since Friday. I understand that. Is there any glaring omissions or questions you want addressed? Because of the next agenda item is we're going to set the budget workshop. But I wanted to get some initial feedback from you guys on the first glance.
Haven't got anything glaring yet.
He's gone through it.
You're the one computing the savings on the.
Any other questions for Brian?
One quick thing, I'll have a version of this up tomorrow, although I'll tell you that if you're looking for all the statutory language, it will be up on Thursday with the proposed tax rate and everything else. Parker County is unique. I'm just going to leave it at that. The appraisal district ran the ad but didn't run the ad or could run the ad. There's a couple of statutory ads that we're working with the CAD on as to whether or not they actually do them. If not, we'll take care of it. We will run those ads in the community news, the newspaper of record. Sorry, Democrat. We will try to get those ads in on the 28th, and then the following one on the
22nd and 28th.
22nd and 28th, yes. For everyone in the public, this is probably the 6th time I've mentioned this. We will have a public hearing on September the 4th at 6:30. We will have a second public hearing on September the 11th at 6:30. And we will adopt the budget and the tax rate on September the 18th at 6:30 in this room.
Thank you.
Residents can get a copy of this
Yes.
draft budget. How can they get that?
It will be on the city's website where they can come to City Hall and get a copy.
On Thursday.
On Thursday.
They can get a copy of this tomorrow, but the one they're going to want is on Thursday.
Thanks, Brian. Item number 9, to consider and take action on setting a time, date, and place for budget workshop.
As I've noted in the email, my recommendation is to meet next Tuesday, the 21st. We can do 6:30. I don't know how this will go as long as y'all want it to. We can go line item by line item, and we can order dinner and breakfast.
I have work the next day.
Or we can go as fast or as slow as you want. I'll have all department heads here prepared to answer your questions. Any capital expenditure questions you have, they'll be able to answer. Although I did tell them don't get too excited about capital expenditures, and they did it. And so this is going to be a meat and potatoes type of budget.
6:30, the 21st, good with everyone?
Yeah.
Do we have a motion?
I move that we schedule the budget workshop next week, August 21st at 6 o'clock.
6:30.
PM.
6:30, pardon me.
6:30.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion or questions? All in favor? Thank you. To consider and take action, item number 10, on ratifying and approving an emergency treated water supply agreement with the city of Weatherford.
As y'all know, we've had an exciting couple of weeks, and the next agenda item will address and update the situation in more detail. On July the 26th, myself, Mayor Pro Tem Ho, Councilman Fennell, and Assistant City Manager Bernie Parker, and our city engineer Derek Turner went before the Weatherford Municipal Utility Board on a request from my office to grant an emergency water connection. We've had a number of discussions leading up to that. There were times when I thought the thing was never going to happen, and we were already working on Plan B. And I got a phone call late one evening from Sharon Hayes, and she said, I think we can get this thing done. And so we worked together with our neighboring city to get 200, potentially up to 300, but we're going to say 200,000 gallons per day while we rehab our wells. And Derek can get into that at the moment. This is the mayor's referred to it as a historic agreement. It's much needed. Raymond reported this morning both our tanks are full. I think 5 inches of rain in 2 days has something to do with that, but both our tanks are full, and this allows us the opportunity to move up our well rehab schedule by a number of months, most likely 4 to 5 months. And so it definitely gives us more flexibility to do our repairs. But we do need council approval and ratifying of the agreement.
Do we have a motion?
I move to ratify and approve an emergency treated water supply agreement with the city of Weatherford as presented.
Second?
Second.
Any other questions or comments?
I'm very proud of our staff and of our mayor for making all this happen, and our engineer. Tremendous job. Tremendous job.
I agree. All in favor? Thank you. Number 11, update on water supply situation.
I want to let Derek Turner give you guys some information, and if y'all have more questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them for you.
Thank you, Brian, Mayor, Council. As Brian said, the Weatherford Emergency Interconnect is online and operating. You're actually using water from Weatherford now. The other items that are underway, based on the strategy that we've kind of developed to get through this period, the first one was to drill 2 replacement wells, and we identified 2 of the worst wells. In fact, I showed a video, or I mean, a still of a part of the video when we made a presentation not too long ago of well number 14, which had holes in the casing and was in really bad shape. And well number 15, which are both located at the Public Works site. And we have obtained approval from the TCEQ and the Upper Trinity Groundwater District to drill those wells. We got bids from drillers and lined up a local driller to do that work, and they've actually got the first, which is the well 14, which is a Biloxi well, is drilled and has a pump in it as of today, and they're pumping that well. It looks like the current flows that we're seeing aren't back to what the original well was, which was back in the 70s, but it's twice what it was in January. So it looks like we're going to at least double the capacity of going back to the first of the year on that well. The second well, number 15, they have to fabricate screen because that's a Trinity well and it's a different kind of screen. So they're fabricating that right now, and we're expecting them to be on site on the 20th, on Monday, to drill the Trinity well. And that one, the original capacity on that well was about 150 GPM, so and it's currently, last time I looked, it was around 15 GPM. So we expect to get something close to what it was originally drilled at. The Trinity should be a better producer than the Biloxi, so as far as recovering what was originally done. So those 2 projects are underway. We've also got 2 new wells that we're wanting to get drilled in 2 different locations in town. Any area that you drill in the city or anywhere near here is going to have an issue with well separation requirements from the Upper Trinity, and there's different methods of determining what that separation has to be, but short answer is there's nowhere in town that we can meet that requirement. So it requires an exception by Upper Trinity for the locations that we want to drill. That is being considered at a public hearing on Monday at Upper Trinity's office. And if that's approved, then we expect to get approval for both of those 2 wells from Upper Trinity probably next week. And we're dealing with the TCEQ now and getting the same kind of emergency approval to drill those. And we'll have drillers lined up and everything ready to go as soon as we get that approval on those. So that's the second step or third step in that process. The other thing Brian mentioned was the rehabbing the wells. I've currently got a list of 7 wells that we know of that we believe need to be or could be rehabbed as opposed to being replaced. And we've got some contractors that specialize in rehabbing wells coming in within the next few days to meet and discuss those wells. And the Weatherford supply will give us, as Brian mentioned, the opportunity to bring those wells down without losing capacity. And plus that'll be happening as we go out of the hotter part of the season. So we should be able to bring wells down 1 or 2 at a time and get those replaced over the next several weeks. And those are the things that are going on, and things are moving pretty quickly now, and a lot of progress is being made. So capacity-wise and supply flow-wise, things are looking a lot better.
Thank you, Derek.
You guys have any questions?
What's the GPM on 14?
It's 48 GPM,
48.
and it was below 20
Yeah.
in the last reading. So.
Okay.
So Derek, one question. How much water do we use a day as a city?
I don't know what the last couple of days reading is. been using in the neighborhood of about 1 million gallons a day. That dropped, actually before the rains, the last numbers I saw were 888,000, I think. So, and that was the drought restrictions were bringing that down. But, under restrictions, something less than that. Normal use would be about 1.2, something like that.
During
million gallons a day.
I'm sorry, during the June to July billing period, we billed for 33.5 million gallons of water in a 30-day period. That's while we were under drought restrictions. So the old adage is, if you want to sell more water, issue drought restrictions.
So where I was driving to, Brian, is we're using about normally 1.3 million. What's our capacity?
Well, that's a good question. We looked at the data that was showing the well capacity dropping, and you were in June, around that time frame, you were at about 1.2 MBD capacity. So,
And after the
numbers, first of the year numbers would have put you at around 1.35, 1.4. And the further back you go, the higher that capacity.
And our expectation after rehab project is to bring it up to?
We're trying to get up total capacity with all elements in place. We're looking at just under 2 million gallons.
And we have
So we'll
storage
have-
capacity, 2.8.
Yes, 2.8.
2.8, so
That's our
Well,
storage
that's
capacity.
The storage capacity, yeah, that's, and Mother Nature's not coming to the table to sign a contract with us.
But
right, but we're looking at gaining
Oh, yeah.
up to 2 million gallons per day, right?
Mhm.
So
That's our hope.
That's
yeah.
That's the hope. It's-
So roughly about a 700,000 gallon
Right.
surplus.
Yeah. If the wells recover what we think they will.
Keep in mind,
And the new wells.
this is the interim period, or the bridge to the Fort Worth project, which we're going to try to expedite faster than Half Associates thinks. Although I did discover that nobody with Fort Worth works during the month of July, so that was a bit disheartening. But the plan is to get us to 2 million GPM, or GPD, excuse me. Nice to have 2 million GPM. 2 million GPD by this time next year. That should get you through any sort of growth that you'd like to see addressed, and have what I would call reasonable water expectations, water restrictions. We will consistently be on some version of water restrictions, probably in perpetuity, just like every other city in North Texas. Hudson Oaks has never been off of their stage 2. Weatherford's stage 1 is our stage 3.
They stay on stage 1. They never go off stage 1.
They never go off of it. And so most cities have addressed these concerns. But furthermore, when we get on Fort Worth water, we're going to have to adopt their exact water conservation policy.
Right. But once that happens, then that'll fulfill our needs for as far as a comprehensive plan build out.
Yes. Fort Worth is about 3.5 gallons per day. If you take our well production at just 1.5 million, you're at 5 million gallons per day. That is more than the city of Stephenville uses. So,
And that's slightly more than your 50-year projection.
Right.
Or, excuse me, your 2050 projection. Build out.
Thanks, Derek.
Okay.
Item number 12, to consider and take action on an addendum to the current Park County ILA to perform road work and construction on Buena Vista Drive from Live Oak to Emsley Drive. Do we have a motion? I'm sorry, Brian, go ahead.
real quick, this one got added at the very, very last minute. Got a phone call, Raymond actually did, from Steve Dugan. The county's looking for things to do.
Okay. We got plenty of roads for them.
So we amended our ILA to include Buena Vista Drive. If it's up there by the Public Works building, if you haven't driven it, put it in 4-wheel drive and go down that road. It's in incredible disrepair, and we can do this. $10,000 for labor, about $30,000 for materials, and they'll take this up at their meeting and get going.
They'll take it up there,
I think they're going to take it up to their commissioner's court, yes.
Commissioner's Court, thank you. Do we have a motion?
I move to accept the addendum to the current Parker County ILA to perform road and street work and construction on Buena Vista Drive from Live Oak to Emsley.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any other questions or discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Item number 13, to consider and take action on approving an agreement for construction materials testing services with DNS Engineering Labs for Willow Park Public Safety Building.
Save the best for the last.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. As previous council meeting, we have awarded a bid for our public safety building to hasten construction. Part of our responsibility in this process is to hire a testing lab. We had received some qualifications through Dewberry, our architect, on a few firms providing their qualifications to the city, and upon reviewing their qualifications, we made the decision to go with DNS Engineering Labs out of Fort Worth. This afternoon, I received their quote or their estimate on what it would cost us to do testing, which is going to be your steel, your concrete, your dirt, the impact, and compaction. Yes, thank you. And it's roughly around $29,886 is what they quoted us a price for. So what I'm seeking tonight is for approval. My recommendation is to go ahead and accept this offer. So I need approval from this council to move forward to sign a contract with them.
Do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the agenda item as presented.
Second?
Second.
Any questions for Bernie or discussion?
I assume they're bonded, right?
Yes, sir.
All in favor? Thank you. Item number 14, to consider and take action on the authorization of city staff to dispose of playground equipment.
Mayor, member of council, as you're aware, we had to remove playground equipment as part of the construction, the process of the public safety building. Public Works staff did remove that, and as per conversing with our city attorney, we needed to have council's approval on disposal of this equipment. My recommendation is that due to the condition that the park equipment was in, that we dispose of it, as far as not save it to try to place it somewhere else within the city of Willow Park. Due to Texas requires when you're dealing with playground equipment to be in compliance with CPSC, which is the Consumer Public Safety Commission, and it's my opinion that that equipment would not meet that requirement at this date. So my recommendation is to dispose of it.
Do we have a motion?
I move that we authorize the city to dispose of the playground equipment.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Johnson's here, is the new chairman of our Parks and Recreation. I've spoken with him today, and this is on our list to rectify and make correct. So we're not disposing of the equipment, but we're still looking at other avenues to where we might have some equipment someplace. So we are working on that. I wanted everyone to know that. And Larry, thanks for being here. Any other discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Mayor and council member comments. Does anyone have anything to say? I will say that the last few months, I worked very hard with Brian, our city manager, Mr. Derek Turner, and some of the council I know have worked on this hard on our water issue for several months. And the frustrating thing about city government is it doesn't move fast enough. But I think what we've done with Weatherford is, I think it's huge. I think it gives us some breathing room, and I think we're on the right path to make the water situation right. And our hope is this time next year, we don't have to worry about water again. And the deal with Fort Worth is ongoing, but I think we were told, somebody corrected me, The earliest they said would probably be December of 2020. Is that right?
That's correct.
So until then, we will work on the wells. We'll work hard to conserve what we need to do, but I want to thank the council and Brian for everything they've done. The parks, it's a big item, and we're going to work on the parks and get a plan. We have bids out. Bernie, did he leave?
No, he's hiding. He was hiding.
You can't hide very well. It's a lot of man to hide.
We're taking bids on the master park plan. Where are we on that?
We have.
So we'll be addressing that in the very near future, so we're working on that also. Thank everyone for their hard work, and Mr. Grimes.
Just to echo that, I can't thank Bernie and Candy and Alicia enough for supporting and being on a Johnny on the spot as far as the water situation goes. It would go without saying that Derek Turner is a valuable asset to the organization as well, even though he's just a contract guy and not actually on staff yet. But the water situation will get fixed. I think the two scariest moments in my entire career, one was when I had an unfortunate accident. An employee was killed on the job in another community. The other one was waking up on a Sunday morning and Raymond Johnson texting me, "We are going to run out of water in an hour." That will make I don't have any hair on the back of my neck, but if I did, it makes it stand up. To you two gentlemen, I want to tell you, I'm committed to solving this problem. Action, I understand words are cheap and action speed. We're drilling right now. We're going to drill more wells in the future. We're going to rehab wells. That's our plan. I do not anticipate us being on a perpetual state of stage 4, but we will be on some water restrictions. I think that's the responsible thing to do. I grew up in West Texas where you didn't know if you were going to get water tomorrow or not, so water restrictions is no big deal to us. But we will solve the problem. One of the things that was not mentioned was how is this going to get paid for. As Jake Weber mentioned, we have about $1.5 million in reserve funds dedicated to water, and so that is where we're using those funds to pay for these projects right now. It's the number one thing on my priority list. The number one thing. Without water, we don't have much of a community. Ranch House is progressing. The street construction there, the concrete construction there is progressing well. I do apologize to the folks who have been discomforted when it rains. Having rain in the middle of a construction zone is not ideal, but I will take it. But that is going well. If you haven't driven down Ranch House on the concrete between Fox Hunt Trail and the golf course, I'd highly recommend that. Contractor's doing a great job. Other than that, last thing, Ms. Hoffman, Democrat, sales tax collections last week, $116,500 and change. It's the second highest sales tax collection in the history of Willow Park. Pretty soon, we will exceed the $1 million threshold. When I got here, I thought it'd take 2.5 years for us to get there. We're going to get there in about a year. That is not a testament to the city staff. That's a testament to the businesses here. That's a testament to the people buying here. For every $100 that you spend at a local store, 68 of it comes back to the community. So we try to buy local. We try to eat local. And some of us eat too local too much.
You gotta make a motion first. You gotta make a motion first. Slow down.
That is all I have.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Thanks, everyone.
That's